Hi everyone, thank you for coming to the Online Learning Tips and Tricks workshop. My name is Sharon and I'm in my third/fourth year of arts psychology, and I'm currently on a work term through the Arts Work Experience program. All of the tips that I'm providing are things that work for me, and if you went through this application and still don't feel like anything was applicable to you, please feel free to let me know and reach out, and we can book a one-on-one coaching session to work through your questions individually. As the name suggests, this workshop is to provide you with advice on how to make the most of the online learning experience. Again, there are a lot of different pieces of advice out there. We just put this together with tips that we think are important. To start off, here's a rundown of the topics we're going to cover today. We broke it down into 3 main sections: personal routine, in-class advice, and relations with your professor. At the very end, we'll have a question and answer period where we'll be answering any pre-submitted questions there were. Before we get into the presentation, I just want to say that it's okay if you're not at the top of your game. Online learning isn't for everyone, and to have to do it during a pandemic really doesn't make it easier. Breaks are really important and super necessary to keep you going. And remember to always prioritize yourself and your health. If you need any type of support, please reach out and I can direct you to any of the resources you may need. With that being said, let's get started. So having a set routine was a lot easier when we had to physically show up to places. Now it's way too easy to be able to go your entire day without getting out of bed. The following tips we have all help to bring structure back into your life. There were a lot of questions about time management and organization, so this section is quite important if you have any concerns in that regard. When you wake up, don't just roll over and log onto Zoom. Actually get up and do what you'd normally do pre-COVID. There are so many things you can add to your morning routine. Even if you get up just an hour before your classes, you can shower, eat breakfast, get dressed, exercise, or go for a walk, which kind of mimics your morning commute. All of this mimics a pre-COVID school morning, and it gets you up and ready for the day. You'll be less groggy and more awake for the day, and you'll have accomplished something before your first class. Number 2 is to change locations. First and foremost, don't study or do work in your bed. Keep a distinct separation between your workspace and your resting space. If you have the room for it, try to set up a study station outside of your bedroom. If you don't have the space, you can also choose any corner of your bedroom. Make sure that it's quiet enough for you to be able to focus and it's comfortable enough that you can spend long periods of time here. This is your designated work zone, and you only come here to work. Make it clear to your body that you only rest when you're at your resting space, which is very important that your workspace isn't in your bed. Additionally, if this is something you are comfortable with, and of course, if restrictions permit it, you can also go to a cafe or book a time at the library to work. Having a change of scenery and an excuse to get out of the house, especially during COVID, can be a great motivator. Study plan. Study plans help you keep track of all of your dates and deadlines and helps you break things down into more manageable pieces. Start with one class and write out all of your due dates and exam dates, then continue with the rest of your classes all onto one same calendar, and from there, plan backwards. So in your study plan, you should include when you plan on starting something, when you want to complete it, and remember to always keep it flexible. This plan isn't set in stone, and things often do arise that may knock some of your plans around. The purpose of your study plan isn't to have hard deadlines, but is more so there to help give you direction and a general sense as to where in the course you should be. It's important as well to include breaks in your study plan. It's simply impossible to work 24/7, so make sure you're adding in break days so that you can rest and recharge. Daily schedule. Utilize apps like Google Calendar or physical planners that can help you schedule your day by hourly increments. With some classes being asynchronous, it's easy to brush them off for later, but don't give in to that temptation. Schedule a regular weekly time to watch your asynchronous lectures as if they were live. Block out all of the times you have classes, both your synchronous and asynchronous classes. Then add in time blocks for things like your morning routine or study blocks that correspond with your study plan. If you're using online planners, they have great features where they can send you notifications before anything that you've scheduled, so that can also help you stay on top of your schedule. And don't just schedule in school and work. Also schedule fun stuff, like if you're going out for dinner or hanging out with your friends. If you only associate bad time with your calendar, it might turn you off from wanting to check it altogether. So it's always good to balance out your work and your fun. And like I mentioned in the previous slide, block out rest days or rest hours for you to chill and recharge. This is super important for reducing burnout. When you're putting in 100% of yourself constantly, you're going to run out of energy, and it can be hard to get back into the swing of things after a long period of burnout. Always listen to your body and yourself because you know what you can and can't do. In-class advice. This section is good for anyone who had questions about note-taking or socializing during online classes. Be proactive and take notes. Don't just sit idly by watching your screen during your class. Take notes as you normally would have during in-person classes. This helps you keep you focused and it directs your attention in a positive channel. Recorded lectures are good in that if you miss something your professor says, you can always rewind to hear it again. But don't let that lull you into a sense of security. If you take proper notes while the lecture is happening, you don't need to scroll through a 50 to 70 minute video just to look for one piece of information. On that same note, effective note-taking is an important skill to learn and harness. Remember that good notes aren't where you write down every single thing your professor is saying. You want to focus on the main points that they're talking about. If your professor already provides you with a PowerPoint with their main topics, then you should always take a note of what they emphasize. Knowing what's important and what isn't important is a skill that takes time and practice to learn. And each professor teaches differently, so it's really up to you to notice what's important to your specific class. One simple tip, though, is to format your notes in a consistent structure. Use bullet points and section out your notes so it's easy to understand what is all in one topic. This also helps for later down in the line when you're reviewing your notes, and it makes it easier to understand. Focusing in class. Sometimes it takes all of your energy to just be able to pay attention to what's going on in the lecture, which makes it difficult to multitask and take notes. If this is your situation and you find that you aren't being stimulated enough, find a mundane activity that you can do with your hands so you can direct the rest of your energy to paying attention to your lecture. This can include fidget toys, doodling, knitting, twiddling a pen, whatever works for you. The social aspect. One of the highlights to the university experience is the social aspect. With everything being remote, it makes socializing really difficult. Some tips that we have for maintaining an active social aspect to your class is as follows. Number 1, take advantage of the Zoom chat to ask questions. There, your professor or other classmates can answer, and you can slowly build a reputation with them. Do remember Zoom etiquette though. Be professional and don't spam the chat. Number 2, if your professor has an online forum, you can use it to connect with other students. Use it as a discussion board, and again, you can form connections through there. One side note for that is if your professor has outlined that it's okay to use it as a discussion board. And one last feature that has become really popular with students is to send out a mass email to all of their classmates asking if anyone wants to join a group chat on an easier chatting domain. This allows in-class friendships to form way easier and can also be used for study buddies or other class-based activities. Again, remember online etiquette and don't bombard people with notifications. Communicating with your professor. Even when classes are remote, it's still a good idea to communicate with your professor and to nurture a relationship with them. In-class communication. It's obviously a lot more difficult now, and it's much harder to get to know your professors on a personal level as well. An easy way to make your in-class experience more personal is to have your camera on. Speaking to blank screens isn't fun, nor is it the easiest job out there, but by having your camera on, this allows the professor to have more face-to-face contact with you. Additionally, if you are asking questions in the chat, this also helps your professor get to know your name and your face. Number 2, outside of class. You can ask about the class structure and the time commitment required if it's not listed in the syllabus already, and this can help ease your worries about the class as a whole. It's also in good practice to email your professor letting them know if you are unable to make a class, especially if you're in a smaller class size or if attendance is mandatory. Let them know your situation and why you can't make it. Most professors are quite understanding, and again, this helps you build a better relationship with your professor. The next thing is to attend office hours. This allows you to get one-on-one time with your professor or a TA, and it's a great chance to ask any questions you were unsure about or were unable to ask during the lecture. Getting to know your professor outside of class can come in handy if you need a reference or would like to TA for one of their classes in the future. Again, all of this is to build a relationship with your professor. The tech aspect. Needless to say, with online classes, there are a lot of new pieces of technology involved that you may not have used before. If you're uncertain about how to use a certain feature, such as an e-class quiz, e-poll, proctored exams, etc., ask your prof if they can set up a practice test or a practice version of the software so you can learn and get used to the technology before the actual event. This can save you a lot of hassle on the day of, and it helps things run smoother on an already stressful day. Rate my prof. In previous years, this was a big deciding factor to a lot of students who didn't know if they'll like the way a professor teaches. Now, it may not be the most relevant since a lot of the reviews may be for when they taught in person. If you're worried about whether or not you'll enjoy the way a professor teaches, you could check out pages like the university Reddit or the Facebook pages. You can ask questions and students who have answers will reply in a more relevant sense. And on to our last section, the pre-submitted questions. Again, if there are any questions that you do have that weren't answered here, feel free to reach out to me through my email. There will be a slide at the end with my contact information as well as any other resources that you might need. So number one is chronic procrastination. First, this is a very common struggle that I'm pretty sure every single student struggles with. The first part of the presentation covered a lot about setting a schedule and a routine. Obviously, it's easier said than done, but you have to make it a habit by working on it every single day. One way to make sure you stick to your routine is by getting yourself an accountability partner. This can be a friend, roommate, classmate, sibling, whoever. You just need to check up on each other and hold each other accountable to your goals, whatever they may be. You can have Zoom study dates with them at a set time every day. There's a lot of different options on how to keep each other accountable. Number two, again, is the study plan. They can really help. Procrastination is an avoidance behavior. When something makes you feel dread or anxiety, the easiest thing you can do is to just avoid it. Something that helps is to break down that major task or deadline into smaller, more manageable tasks. It helps you manage your anxiety, again, which helps tackle procrastination. I used to, and I still kind of do, struggle a lot with procrastination, but after visiting the Academic Success Center, they really helped me with making a plan and getting my life back on track. It seems like such an easy solution, and that's because it really is. The hard part to it is sticking to it. If you are having more issues with this, I would really suggest booking an appointment with the Academic Success Center. They have advising sessions and workshops that help you tackle procrastination. I'll have a page again at the end of this presentation with all of the resources that I like to recommend. The second question that we got was effective note-taking. So on top of the tips that I already mentioned earlier, it's good practice to review your notes within 24 hours of taking them. On top of just reviewing, it's good to rewrite your notes and even condense them. This helps you in the future when you're looking back at your notes and reviewing them. You can have more concise notes, which saves you time in the long run. Adding another sense to your notes also helps you remember things better. For example, colors, pictures, diagrams, mnemonic devices, which is kind of like having, sounds that help you remember things like Roy G. Biv for the colors of the rainbow, or physical location placements. Those can all really help you remember things better. And that was the end of all of our slides. Here is the resources page, and it's got just a small list of places you can go for academic help and mental health. And this is a page for my contact information. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you watched all the way to the end. If you have any more questions or need help with anything, again, feel free to email me at artsinternationalintern@ualberta.ca. My hours are Monday to Friday from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. MST. You can also check out our webpage at uab.ca/artsintl. Yeah, thanks again for watching.